So in the past few days, the Rainbow Unicorn government have taken it upon themselves to publish or publicise a taxpayer-funded COVID etiquette guide, aptly named the COVID Guide to Etiquette and Pandemic Politeness. Now, of course, it's been met with criticism and a bit of backlash, with many saying that this is what would be considered patronising. We're being treated like children. And in many respects, they're correct to say so. But one thing that I really want to know is, why is this where people draw the line, you know? Because this crap has been going on since the beginning of this so-called pandemic. We have been treated like children. We have been dictated to by the governments in question. You know, this isn't anything new. Granted, this is rather patronising, the lengths that they've gone to when it comes to this etiquette guide, quote unquote. But the reality of the matter is, from day dot, we have been dictated to and patronised and treated like children. You know, from the very get-go, we should have been able to make the choice ourselves whether or not we wish to leave our house, but instead we were told we were allowed out for an hour a day. We were told that we had to stay indoors and businesses had to be shut. They took the decision that we should have been making ourselves, whether or not we wish to take any risks that may have occurred entering out into the world with a deadly virus in circulation. Then we moved forward a few months after their stringent bullshit lockdown rules, and we entered a period where face nappies were no longer something that you got to decide whether or not you wished to wear. They became mandatory. Then we had travel restrictions, where a measure that were advisory or considered advisory, now it's law. So not only are you by law supposed to wear a face nappy, you're also by law not allowed to leave your area if you are in a specific tier, courtesy of the Scottish Government. Every avenue of your life they are dictating. But this is where people draw the line? It's remarkable. So everything up until this point you've been fine with, but this is where you draw the line. And of course Nicola Thinlips defends the taxpayer-funded COVID etiquette guide. Goes on to say here that the First Minister was responding to criticism on social media that it's light-hearted. 8-page advice on COVID etiquette was a waste of cash and a sign of the nanny state at work. The Scottish Tories said the patronising effort belittled the huge sacrifices people made every day. And again, the Tories are just as complicit in this as are the SNP. Because when they talk about sacrifices, that's not sacrifices that people have decided to make for themselves. That is the government dictating that you have to make sacrifices. They forced you to do that. And again, it's my point. These are choices that individuals should have been making for themselves. Whether or not they wished to go along with the rules, whether or not they wish to take the risk, whether or not they wish to comply, quote unquote. Don't patronise any of us by talking about sacrifices, because a sacrifice would suggest that we've decided to take that upon ourselves, we've decided to make sacrifices. No, the government has forced people to make sacrifices. There's a difference. Thinlips said that the government was trying to be helpful, and that people were also free to make their own choices about the scenarios covered. You're free to make your own choices about the scenarios covered, but you're not free to make your own choices in every other aspect of society when it comes to this pandemic, quote unquote. As I keep bringing up now, how many times have I repeated the same point? We haven't had the choices, we've had these choices taken away from us, but this is where people draw the line. It's good that she's given us a bit of leeway when it comes to their fucking etiquette book, eh? Called the COVID Guide to Etiquette and Pandemic Politeness, and illustrated with basic cartoons, the guide offers tips on awkward situations and how to avoid causing offence. Saying that 80% of Scots, and you Scots alike, had experienced an awkward social interaction during the so-called non-existent piss-poor pandemic, and most worried about appearing rude and hurting someone's feelings. And the Rainbow Unicorn government, they're here to save the day because they love talking about fifis. Scenarios covered included social distancing with strangers, household deliveries, refusing invites to social gathering, and maskless work colleagues. Describing itself as a modern, light-hearted twist on traditional etiquette guides, the £4,853 publication also recommended giving someone a virtual hug if they unwisely try to give you a real one. Tory Edinburgh City Councillor Joe Mowat tweeted, "Good grief, are we really paying for this to be produced? Clearly setting out the rules should be enough." Oh, you know, the rules are just as bad. They're just as bad. People seem to be missing the point here. Others described it as propaganda, lunacy and a joke. Well, they're not wrong. Asked at the daily briefing if the proper, there's my Freudian slip, guide was treating people like children, Thinlip said, "We're trying to be as helpful as possible to people. People ask for guidance on all sorts of things because we need to dictate to you how you live your life. You need to be told how to live your life. You need to be told how to exchange in daily interactions. You need to be told where you can and cannot go. You need to be told how far you need to stand away from each other. You need to be told what you need to wear when you enter a supermarket. You need to be told what is and what isn't essential." I could go on. People are grown-ups. I've tried to treat people like grown-ups. All people are grown-ups, and grown-ups are supposed to be able to make independent decisions for themselves. They should have the right to choose what they do and what they do not do. But you have taken those rights away from them. You have treated us all like children, as have all the other governments in question. They've treated us all like children from the fucking start. Everything from 2 meters apart to bubbles. Oh man, come on. People are perfectly able, if they feel it's better, to make their own decisions about how to handle some of the difficult situations that we all find ourselves in because of this pandemic. See, this is what I'm saying. So, she's now saying that people are perfectly able to make their own decisions, but only about the scenarios that they conjured up in their little taxpayer-funded etiquette guide. You're not perfectly capable to make your own decisions in every other aspect of life because they've taken those choices away from you. Going back to what I said, they've now made it illegal to travel from certain parts of the country, whereas prior to that, it was advisory. You were able to wear a mask or no wear a mask if you so chose, but they've now made it compulsory. Advisory then becomes legal, or illegal. Advisory becomes compulsory. People are perfectly able, she says it herself, I'm taking her words, we're perfectly able to make our own decisions, apart from when you're not. Thinlips also said she did not know how much the government publication had cost. MSP Brian Whittle, the Conservative Shadow Minister for Public Health, Mental Health, Wellbeing and Sport, said Scots get the damage this pandemic has caused. No, the lockdown has caused damage. The restrictions have caused damage. People need to make this distinction. It needs to be made perfectly clear for people who can't seem to understand what's going on here. They continuously blame the so-called pandemic for the destruction of livelihoods, job loss, and the destruction of businesses and, of course, the economy, when it is nothing to do with the so-called pandemic and everything to do with every single fucking measure and policy decision that they have taken and implemented. I'm afraid this guide belittles the sacrifices they have made and is the definition of patronising. Ha! Yeah. What's also patronising is people like that saying that we've made sacrifices willingly. It's time for the Rainbow Unicorn Parliament, or party even, to actually concentrate on what matters for once and ensure a clear and accountable rollout of the new vaccine. Yes, that's what's important. Not going back to normal because we can't do that. No, of course we can't. No, it's about getting a jab. It's about getting a jab to save you from a deadly virus that has an over 99%, if it even existed, survival rate. But you need a jab, by the way. There are already a number of unanswered questions on key measurements for getting the injection up and running, including storage, logistics, staffing and vaccination locations. A Rainbow Unicorn government spokesperson said, "Giving our research showing 80% of people in Scotland have felt awkward when trying to follow the rules, and the majority worried about appearing rude or hurting someone's fifis. So we produce guidance alongside experts in behavioural science to give people useful tips and hints." Behavioural science, because that's when you need to control your behaviour. So when you go through this really is remarkable. The COVID Guide to Etiquette, Pandemic Politeness. Featuring, this is very diverse here, how to handle awkward situations, what to do and say to avoid causing offence. What should you do if your friend runs in for a hug, or someone stands way too close to you? If you've experienced an awkward social interaction during the pandemic, you're not alone. Research has found that over 80% of people in Rainbow Unicorn land have felt awkward when trying to follow the rules, and the majority are worried about appearing rude or hurting someone's fifis. This guide is a modern, light-hearted twist on traditional etiquette guides, and has been developed to support people to follow the rules and stay safe, and provide tips on what to do and say to avoid creating tension. Stay safe from the deadly virus that statistically will not hurt you, even if it existed, unless you're suffering from underlying health issues or you are rather old. Kind of like the flu, but we won't talk about that. Framing what you say, the undermining principle of the tips. Framing what you say as an offer rather than a request will help to reduce tension or offence, which still changing the outcome of an encounter. I'll give you a wee bit of space to have to, because we're Scottish, yeah, so we have to add in the Scottish words here. I'll give you a wee bit of space. Sorry, Sorry, it's tricky in busy spaces not to get too close, isn't it? Top tips, courtesy of the Rainbow Unicorn government. Assume the best. Remember that most people have good intentions, and it's possible that the person has forgotten or misunderstood the current guidance because it's forever changing, because Nicola Thinlips gets up one morning and her advisors tell her what's in her new script. So, it's forever changing. So current guidance could be misunderstood, or they're unable to comply with it. There's that word again. You want to talk about behavioural change and behavioural science? Words like comply, repeated over and over and over again to get it drummed into your little head. That's what you need to do. Think ahead, or plan ahead even. Think about what you can do to reduce the likelihood of having to deal with an awkward situation. Make an offer. Making a simple offer can be best because it can be framed out of care and concern for one another. A polite decline is fine. It's okay to say no and politely decline to do something if you're in a situation where the guidance isn't being followed. Walk away and report if necessary. If someone refuses to comply, it's okay to walk away from the situation and report if necessary. Grass at people for not complying with the guidelines set out on the table by Nicola Thinlips. What to do if a stranger in the supermarket is way too close and doesn't maintain a 2-metre distance? Why 2 metre? I keep saying this. Well, it's different in every country. 1.5 in Germany and whatnot. Why 2 metre here? Because Nicola Thinlips told you it's 2 metres. Moving away yourself will remove the need for you to say something, since it can be awkward to speak to a stranger. If you still need to say something, remember that the person may not realise they're too close or have forgotten the guidance. Try to say something to remind them, such as, "I'll step back and give you some space." It's tricky in busy spaces to keep 2 metres, isn't it? Someone gets too close to you on public transport. Making a polite offer with care can be all it needs. Remember, the rules are there to protect us all. Of course they are. Yeah, protect lives, say the NHS. Bollocks! Fucking bollocks! So if the person becomes confrontational, it's okay to report it to the nearest staff member. Yeah, okay. Someone is delivering something to you or working in your house. It can be difficult if someone is doing something for you to ask them to wear a mask or keep their distance. The best thing to frame what you say as an offer. "I'll just step back and give you some space. I'll open the windows to give you some air. I've got spare masks if you need one." What to do if a friend invites you to birthday drinks at their house? Refusing requests like this from people you are close to is difficult. Try providing a positive reason for declining and offer an alternative. "I wouldn't want to risk infecting you. That'd be the worst birthday present ever." Oh, God, yeah. And how are you going to know you've been infected, considering the majority of people are supposedly asymptomatic. But, I don't want to infect you, Let's have a birthday Zoom. Yes, let's have a digital birthday party. We want to have a digital Christmas. Yes, let's have a birthday Zoom. Why can't we just form a bubble? Why can't they do that? Is it because when Nicola Sturgeon says that you're allowed to form a bubble for Christmas, that's fine. But if you decide to take it upon yourself to form a bubble in order to have birthday drinks at someone's house, that's not allowed. Why? Because Nicola Sturgeon never said it was allowed. You see what's happening here? Why is there bubbles allowed at Christmas but not bubbles for John and Peter to have a birthday party? Very strange. Yeah, what would happen, what to do if you're picking up a coffee when you see a colleague in the coffee shop and they take off their mask to speak to you? Always assume that people have the best intentions and that they may have done it without thinking. Without thinking! It's best to offer an explanation and an alternative. "Shall we catch up outside where there's space to keep a wee distance?" Again. Why can't you just sit down in the coffee shop? Because apparently the same as restaurants. If you're standing in the queue or whatever, you have to wear a mask. But when you sit down to consume food or drink, you're allowed to take your mask off. So why can't you just sit down? Why do you need to go outside? What's the difference? It's apparently airborne according to Philippa Whitford from the SNPs. So what difference does it make? But a wee distance by the brown man. A family member is way too close when you meet outside for a walk. They may have not realised they are so close. And maybe they're following the German guidelines. Maybe they're following the recommendations from the CDC. Maybe they're following the Australian guidelines. But because they're not following Nicola Sturgeon's guidelines, they might have not understood that they're a bit too close. Try to take a step back and if needed say something to show it is being done out of care. "Sorry, I know this is a bit odd, having to stay apart. I'll just move back a little and that'll keep us right." Yes, because you're not allowed intimacy. You're not allowed to be near your loved ones and or your friends. No. Social interaction is forbidden because you might pass on the so-called deadly virus. Now put on your fucking nappy and climb back in your bubble and go on home. Here's a virtual hug. Let's have our little elbow pumps and our virtual hugs, sat round our empty Christmas dinner tables on Zoom. A friend runs in for a hug. Changing how we say hello to one another isn't easy, but we're going to change it for you. Being honest about it can make things easier. I so want to hug you, but I guess we have to wait until it's safe. And when will it be safe? When Nicola Sturgeon tells you it's safe. When you have the jab. Oh wait, I forgot, because even after the jab, we're still going to be following these rules. My mistake, yeah. When Nicola Thinlips declares it's safe, you are allowed to hug each other. It's good to know that the government will tell you when that day will come. I don't want to risk harming you or anyone else. And here's this guilt bullshit that they constantly, it's every single time. It's about whether or not you might be fine from it, but you have to think of others. You're harming them and you want them to stay safe from a deadly virus that kills nobody else. No less than the flu, but I'm giving you a virtual hug. And we've got the patronising shit that is facts. Face coverings that don't work. Avoid crowds. Clean hands. 2 meters because Nicola Sturgeon told you. Self-isolation. Fucking hell, man. What a joke. What an absolute joke, this thin-lipped twat. Just a breed. A fucking breed. Get it out. Peace.